Thank you so much for coming out this evening. We're going to do a few things this evening in order to raise awareness and understanding of the cost of complacency when it comes to hearing conservation in the workplace. And it's really amazing to see so many people from different organizations, different backgrounds, clinical, academic, third sector, industry, who all genuinely care about hearing loss and deafness and the impact it has on an individual and society. This is South Sudan. South Sudan in sub-Saharan Africa. And as you can see, it looks like an incredibly tranquil, quiet, peaceful place. And native to South Sudan is the Maban tribe. And in 1962, a researcher went out to South Sudan to study the Maban tribe, specifically to study the hearing levels of an isolated tribe living in South Sudan to understand what their hearing was like. And in 1962, this researcher found that the 70-year-olds in the Maban tribe had hearing levels equivalent to the 20-year-olds living in urban environments. So there was quite a clear link between living in a quiet, isolated environment and a person's hearing. Okay, so what? In 2017, The Lancet published a report on the risk factors for dementia. And The Lancet showed that the number one controllable factor in dementia is hearing loss. If you eliminated all hearing loss from the world, you'd eliminate 9% of dementia. And with an aging workforce, an aging society, people who need to live healthily longer and work healthily longer, we need to start paying attention to things like dementia, because it really is a public health issue, and the World Health Organization is releasing guidelines on how to reduce hearing loss in the workplace in order to sustain a workforce. This scene is sadly very, very common. That sound of that grinder on that steel is like fingers on a chalkboard, but at the volume of a jet engine. And this person working in that environment is absolutely not alone. There are 46 million people across Europe working in hazardous levels of noise every day. And as you can see, the majority are in construction, followed by manufacturing. This chart shows the top 10 occupational diseases by insurance claim. You've got things like cancer, asthma, hand-arm vibration syndrome. But if you look closely, there's actually only 9 there. Number 10 is occupational deafness, and it accounts for more than double all of the other insurance claims for occupational disease combined. In 2014, the Health and Safety Executive measured £360 million as the cost of occupational disease claims. But that number pales into insignificance when you consider the World Health Organization's figure for the total cost of unaddressed hearing loss globally at $750 billion. And I'm going to, in the next few minutes, tell you where that cost is actually coming from, which is essentially the cost of complacency for workplace safety. So why do I care? Why am I up here talking to you about hearing loss and deafness? I started off life as a clinical audiologist. I did a lot of hearing tests, I fit a lot of hearing aids, and I spoke to a lot of people who had lost their hearing. And over the course of that short career in the NHS, I came to understand quite clearly that there was a very real problem, not only with the NHS, unfortunately, as far as it is set up to cure and not prevent illness, but also that hearing aids are a very real problem for a lot of people that absolutely depend on them. Very briefly, we have an outer ear, a middle ear, and an inner ear. And when we're exposed to noise, it's the inner ear, the cochlea, that is affected. The cochlea has these little cells in, and it has a direct link to the brain. And the reason that you get dementia from hearing loss is because the brain isn't getting the stimulation if those little cells in the cochlea are damaged. To give you an example, on the left you've got normal hair cells. They're in the cochlea. They look kind of straight and normal. and on the right-hand side is what happens when you're exposed to noise. And the tragic thing is, once you lose your hearing, once these cells are damaged, they don't get repaired. They don't recover. So all you can do is prevent hearing loss through avoiding noise exposure. And if you get noise exposure and you lose your hearing, then you use a hearing aid. And unfortunately, whenever there is background noise, a person with hearing loss and a hearing aid really does struggle. And ultimately, that means isolation and loneliness as a result of broken relationships. The cost of complacency of hearing loss. This shows how accidents in the workplace increase with increased hearing loss. If you have normal hearing, self-perceived, excellent hearing, you're 2.4% chance of having an accident in a 3-month window. If you self-perceive as having a lot of trouble with your hearing, your chance of an accident in the workplace doubles to 4.8%. This is the employment rates of males according to age and whether or not they have a hearing loss. And as you can see, almost across the entire age range, if you have a hearing loss, you are less likely to be employed. Across the quintiles of household income, if you have a hearing loss, you are more likely to be in the lower quintiles of hearing loss. If you have a hearing loss, you are more likely to retire early. And in this study that looked at people's responses and reactions to their workplace performance, self-perceived workplace performance, linking it to their hearing loss, you can see the sort of reactions that people have: shame, embarrassment, lack of self-worth. If you have a hearing loss, there are some things available. You can get a hearing aid, you can have a bone-anchored hearing aid, a cochlear implant if you have very severe hearing loss, but unfortunately none of these restore what is actually quite an amazing sense. We take it for granted very often. We often appreciate maybe our vision in a way that we don't appreciate our hearing, but it's only once you lose it that you really realize, and the sad thing about that is it's obviously too late. So that's a bit of the background as to why I care about it. And what I've done about it is, about 3.5 years ago, started Eave. And what we do is we go to the root cause of the #1 cause of hearing loss, which is noise exposure. And we say, well, let's try and prevent it in the first place. And through speaking with many people working in the construction sector, the manufacturing sector, about why do people actually not able to wear their hearing protection, why do we not know that they're going deaf before it's too late, and setting out to actually solve that problem. Currently, managing people safely working in noise is a very, very difficult, challenging, expensive, inaccurate, time-consuming thing to do. It takes a lot of different pieces of equipment, a lot of different sets of expertise and skills, and ultimately, it's expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. And anybody who is involved with hearing conservation, I'm sure this will resonate with. And so we set about solving this problem, this complexity of how to actually protect people in noise. And what we developed is an automated, streamlined digital system that allows people to naturally just go about their work in noise, while also being able to manage and mitigate against risks posed by noise. And what we found is that by developing a connected ear defender and linking it to a software platform, where a manager or responsible person is able to actually observe that noise, they're able to then do something about it. There's that old adage of what gets measured gets managed. But we do so much more than that. The headsets also allow for communication and noise. This was our first generation product, and I'm really pleased that this evening we're here to officially launch the second generation product. And that is off of the back of a lot of work that we've done, and I'm going to come on to the team afterwards. A lot of work that we've done to actually listen to what the real problems are in the industry, not only from the managers and the decision makers, but also from the actual users. Listening, what is it that they care about? What is it that's going to actually get them to wear their hearing protection or understand the risks of working in noise. And it really comes from the customer focus that we have. We're very proud to work with some quite amazing companies across a variety of industries. This is just a small selection. But from listening to what's really important, we've developed the FocusLite. The innovations that have gone into this FocusLite, the second generation ear defender from Eave, is number one, a fit test. Built into the ear defender is the ability to know if a person is wearing it and what noise is actually getting to their ear. So not just guessing from a noise level meter or a dose meter from 12 or 24 months ago, but actually seeing day in, day out what they're being exposed to. Are they wearing their hearing protection? The second thing, and we've not been able to measure this exactly, but I do believe that we have the best hear-through technology that exists on the market. And that's not really, that's a bold statement because we're talking about companies like 3M and Honeywell who do operate in this space, but from what we've seen are not pushing the boundaries. They're not listening to what is actually needed out in the field. And hear-through essentially lets you wear an ear defender, but still hear your environment. You can still hear what is going on around you. You can hear people speaking to you, and you can hear things coming. Sadly, the HSE released their numbers for workplace deaths just in the last week or two. And the number one cause of workplace deaths is being hit by a moving object or vehicle. And it's incredibly sad. But we hope that by giving people awareness when they're working in noise, that we can actually reduce that risk. And the hear-through technology that we've developed, and it's unbelievable to watch the engineering and product development team work on this, but it really is quite crystal clear. And while you'll be trying it out in this environment, really you want to be trying it out in a work environment on a construction site to experience what it's like to be able to still hear while having your hearing protected. And the last thing is, it's sort of innocuous, 285 grams, but we spent about 2 years developing a product that was 400 grams. That was the first generation. And when we put it out into the field, there was fantastic reception. The concept was fantastic. But after sort of a number of weeks of wearing it 8 hours a day, the response from the users, the operatives, was, my neck's starting to hurt. And actually, it's not that comfortable when it's on the top of my helmet. And so we took that back to the drawing board, and we took that back into the team, and we said, we need to make this half the weight, or at least as light as any other passive ear defender. And that's what we've done. And it's an absolute testament to the engineering and product development team that we've been able to achieve that between October of 2018 and today when we're launching it, which is unbelievable. Thank you.